This meeting will be recorded for record and will be put online later on. If you're not happy with this, could you leave the meeting now? Thank you. The first item on the agenda is to elect the chair for the coming year. In accordance with the usual arrangements, we've had several nominations. We've had just one nomination, rather. So may I welcome Councillor Elwyn Edwards back to the chair. Thank you very much. And thank you as a committee as well. Thank you. We'll move on now with the programme. And the next item is to elect a vice chair. Do we have names? Yes, we've had several nominations. Well, apologise for my pronunciation of nominations, but one name we've been given is Councillor Ivor Gwyn Lloyd. Thank you very much and congratulations, Ivor. Thank you very much for that. The third item is apologies. We've had one apology from Tim Jones. Thank you very much. The Chair, Councillor Meryl Roberts apologises as well. Thank you. Declaration of interest, anyone? If not, we move on to the minutes. Does anyone propose that they are correct? Well, I'll propose and will somebody second? Edgar seconds. Anything arising? If not, could you show that you agree that they're correct, please? Green tick, put a hand up, a green tick or a red cross. That's been agreed upon. Thank you very much. Then appointing members to serve on visiting panels. As many of you are aware, we've got two visiting panels. The purpose is when you as a committee aren't quite sure about some decision and you want to see the sites to make a decision, that's when the site visit panel is used. We divide them into north and south, so 9 members for the north and 9 members for the south panel. As you know, as you can see from the paper, there are the 7 who are on the south panel there. Well, we need 2 more there, or if some of those 7 want to swap panels, they can. You don't have to stay with the same panel, but it would make things easier maybe. There are 4 members who were previously with the north panel, so we need another 5 there. But again, those 4 don't have to say in the north if they don't want. Just to give you some idea, the panels are rarely used. Usually we just use the papers, etc. But maybe once a year, if that. So they are very rare occurrences, but I just want to add the names. And for information, Tim Jones has contacted me to say he doesn't mind which one he's on. So you can put him in the north, on the north or south panel. At present, he's on the south panel. But I'll allow you as members to decide where you want to go. Okay. So where shall we start? We want 5. There are 5 empty spaces there. There's a hand up, Chair. Where?
Joe Nuttall's done it.
Joe Nuttall's has a hand up.
Hi, I'm happy to join the Northern group.
Another 4. There are new members. June is one.
Dwi'n gweld llaw June a gyfer llaw Naomi.
I see June and Naomi's hands up as well. I'm willing to be on the north one. Okay, and I'm willing to be on the north one as well. So Meryl, south, I'd imagine. I'll go on the north one. Kim there. Dilwyn Roberts' hand is up, Chair. I don't see him. Dilwyn? You're muted, Dilwyn. Dilwyn, you are muted.
Ydych chi dal ar mute?
You're still on mute.
Dilwyn, ydych chi eisiau clicio ar bwtwm microphone?
Dilwyn, don't click on the microphone button on the left-hand side. Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Okay, I will. I apologize, Chair. The only thing I've got to say was if you want somebody in this area, I'm quite happy to be on the panel. There we are. We've got 4 then, or 5. Yes, we've got 8. We've got enough on. We need 1 more in the south, but that will be Delhi. So we're fine now. It says 2 empty spaces on the south here. Well, that's Meryl, which isn't here today. And the new member was being appointed by the government, Delhi. She will be in the south as well. She lives more in the south. Okay, thank you for that. We'll go on to item number 7. Owain. Thank you, Chair. As I'm very unlikely to be present in one of the lots, you're still 1 short, I believe. I'm trying to work out who's supposed to be there. A good point. We're 1 short. We need 1 other name, therefore. From what I can see up till now, in the north, we've got Ivor, Edgar, Tracy, Joe, June, Naomi, him, and Dilwyn. So that is 8. We want 1 more. In the south, we have Elwyn, Anwen, Elfen, John, Brian, Sarah, Tim, Meryl, and Delhi. So who haven't we named? Sarah and Louise. Louise. May I suggest that you put Louise on the south and Tin on the north panel? That is to happen after I leave anyway. Do you all agree with that? The reason is Tim has said he is happy to go on either. So is that right? Are you all right? Edgar, your hand is up. Sorry, that's an old hand. May I suggest Louise lives more in the south. Is it worth us swapping Tim with Louise? Tim is happy to be either or, so. I missed that. That is what agreed. I'm sorry, Owen. It's the paint affecting you, maybe. Yes, and the singing, maybe. Thank you for that. I wasn't to blame, hopefully. Item number 7. Next. It's Ellen is taking these papers, but she isn't feeling very well today. I think she's beginning to suffer from COVID, so I'm willing to step in. Yes, this COVID is increasing again, isn't it? Yes, but as a real trooper, she's here this morning, so we'll see how it goes with Helen. Well, I might have to leave, but good morning and thank you. I'm here today to present a document, auxiliary document, on and for adopting formally the planning administration matters. As you are aware, the purpose of the planning guidelines is to give specific advice on planning matters to do with World Heritage sites to the owners of housing sites, developers, etc., and the planning inspectorate. They don't form new policy areas, but they just look at existing ones. The document has been prepared by officers of Gwynedd Council and the Snowdonia National Park officers, and it's gone out to joint consultation, and following a cabinet meeting yesterday, Gwynedd Council has adopted the document as it is. So just to give you some information on the last step, which was the public consultation, the document went to consultation for 8 weeks between December and February. And we sent details out through the post and emails to promote the consultation. In addition to we included details on our website. There were paper copies available in Shop Gwynedd in Carnarvon and Dolgella and local libraries in Gwynedd. As it was a joint consultations, we asked those who wanted to make comments to, well, most had been located, most located within Gwynedd. We accepted 23 comments, and following looking at them, well, we considered them. These have been included in Appendix A of the consultation report, and also the response of the officers of Gwynedd and the park to the comments. So without saying any more, the recommendation is for the members to note the contents of the consultation report and to adapt the adopt it rather, sorry, the supplementary planning guidance. Any comments by anyone? Or anybody want to propose anything? John? John Pugh? What areas of this is included in the park? I'll just have the SPG up. I'm losing my voice, sorry. The areas really are Maen Twrog, Abergynolwyn, and part of Gandol. If I can come in, it's on page 52. There are maps within the guidelines, yes. The map, John, is on page 32 of the package, or 7 of the SPG itself, and it shows it quite well. The park is in red, and the main areas, the park is green, and the main areas are red. Are there parts of Tanagrisha there? Any further comments on that? If not, Brian?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank officers for bringing this forward. I think it's going to be a very useful document. Yeah, I've got one main question really, and that is what is proposed to ensure that those residents in those areas know that this additional document exists, do we make any specific provision for publicising it when something like this comes forward? If not, bearing in mind it doesn't cover the whole park, it's only specific areas, I wonder whether it would be wise to put in place some specific mechanism for ensuring people know that it exists, to save, you know, time and energy in putting in applications that don't fit.
Yeah, so fel arfer bys ni roid o ar
So
wefan.
usually we'd put it on the website of the authority, but we could also send an email shot out or a letter to people that the document has been adopted, or as well, we could use the social media if that is what you feel is required.
I
But,
certainly, I certainly think that community councils, for example, should be informed in the relevant areas.
Oh, so, are you asking for just specific communities to be informed?
Yes, I mean, it's obviously affects those mostly who have properties in that particular locality. Be very easy for that to be on the website, but you know, you may think you know what's on the website and go ahead because that's what you did last time, whereas this is now an additional, you know, got additional requirements in it. And therefore, you know, an email shot to the community councils at the very least, they could publicise it more widely if they wish. But at least the communities will know that that change has been made. That was really the point.
Yeah, within the email shot, we could include a message saying that all this SPG primarily affects so X, Y, and Z areas, but also like to be mindful that it would affect like the surrounding areas as well. So yeah, we could do that if you feel it's necessary, of course.
That would be my suggestion.
Yn ogystal â hynna, dwi'n meddwl
In
sa'n dwy.
addition to that, I think it would be wise for us to send it to the planning, usual planning agents we use as well, and the developers maybe as well. Thank you, Brian. Edgar? Mr. Chair, I was going to propose a recommendation. Does anyone second the recommendation? Are you seconding, Owen? No, I want to make a comment. I want to second it first. I'm willing to second. Okay, thank you. Elfed? I was just thinking, a large part of the Stiniog area is included in this with the heritage. How do we as a park, how are we going to be able, as Blaenau isn't in them, do we have any say in this matter about how it's going to work more than anything in the Stiniog area? That we are in the park and Blaenau for Stiniog, isn't it? What is the balance, you know, with what do we do? I support it. But do you have any comments? If there are any developments, when a development is in Blaenau Festiniog, the local planning authority would be Anglesey and Gwynedd, so they would depend on the applications following support by the ancillary supplementary planning guide. Can you hear me? Yes, I can, but there's somebody talking somewhere. Where was I saying? Oh yes, what would be then as an authority then? As Blaenau is quite close to the boundary of the park, we would be dealt with a consultee for the application and whatever we consider relevant for us. So that would be the process. The same arrangement as exists now, therefore. Yes, okay, thank you. And also, Cadw will be part of the decision process as well. They are consulted. Thank you very much. Kim? Thank you, Chair. I agree. I just want to raise one typo, if I may. Page 42. It says, well, there's a typo there in the Welsh. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Owain? Thank you, Chair. Yes, generally, obviously we've discussed this several times, and changes have happened following the consultation process, and I welcome that. As members know, of course, SPG is there to go into details on the technical side of the policy, but basically it's a child to the policy itself. And what I have in mind in his ways, looking forward now, there will be a period when this authority will be reviewing its planning policies. At present, I see on page 43 of package 18 of the plan itself, there's a list of policies, relevant policies of our local development plan there. And it strikes me, of course, there are two things which are about to happen as far as policy in this area is concerned. One is to adopt sustainable tourism, and at present, the policy says we must maximise economic benefits. There's no mention of the effect on the community. And of course, we are in the process of reviewing our language policies. So perhaps it wouldn't be a bad thing to explain to members when will this be reviewed? I know perhaps we're looking 4 or 5 years down the line, but I think it wouldn't be a bad thing for members to understand what the process is of reviewing this SPG. Thank you, Owain. Ellen, do you want to come back? I was just going to say, traditionally, the supplementary planning guidelines will be reviewed after the local development plan will be amended and adopted. So that is what the process would be. There's no more to say than that. Thank you. All right, Owen? Yes, but to a degree, have these guidelines been future-proofed, and to what degree? It has tried to be future-proof, but one never knows what will, crop up anyway. If the Wales planning policy will be renewed and the framework document for development in Wales. So it has been future-proofed as much as possible at present, but the document has been drafted since 2019. So we have tried to include all the guidelines and the strategies which at present are within the guidelines. But of course, we can only go with what has been adopted at present. But following the review of the local development plan, then that to be the trigger to, following adoption of the local development plan. Thank you, Ellen. Ivor? Just a general question. How often do we review the SPGs? We are looking at the LDPs every 4 years. How many times do we look at the SPGs after they're adopted? The first step is to adopt the local development plan, is to review the supplementary plans, and we feel that this, as we have so many, there's a hierarchy established based on, especially with the new policies which have been adopted and any developments which have happened generally on a national level, the national and the local level. So really the first step following the adoption of the local development plan is to review the supplementary plans. Naomi.
Yeah, I'm just question.
I just wanted to ask a question. should we consider a contribution to the local community in the SPG?
Sorry,
Sorry, I didn't quite understand the question. Contribution, I don't understand. You ask questions in the SPG, questions to consider, but there is no question about what the contribution is to the local community, facilities, etc. Right, okay. So that is something which we would consider based on, well, in our local development plan. It can't say about Gwynedd, but that would come under the development policies, considering they look that would consider the local policy in view of the development. But that again is based on the development and size of the development. You'd have to consider the size and the extension, house of development. It's based on that. It is based on the kind of development. Just for me to come in on that point, the World Heritage Site doesn't come with any money. There is no public money which can put in, because following that allocation, well, not for us, but for the county council especially, it gives the chance to apply for grants, etc. So there is a potential for them to contribute financially, but that's something separate to our planning role. Naomi, is that all right? Okay. I don't see any other hand up. Does anyone want to contribute again or ask a question? If not, we'll move on to receive the report. Edgar has proposed and John has seconded. Could you all show with your virtual hands, please? The tick or the cross. That's unanimous, green, unanimously. Thank you. And thank you for the report. Ellen, I hope you'll be better. We'll move on to the planning applications, number 8, which is the Capel Curig car park.
Richard,
is Richard with us? I hope so. I think Richard is on mute.
Yeah, dwi yma. Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. Bore da.
Thank you, Chair.
This is an application, I think I'm sharing the screen, for electric substation.
Not yet, Richard. There's no screen. There's no screen sharing yet.
Okay. Iawn?
Yep.
Application for electric substation in Capel Curig. Members might recall this was originally presented in March of this year and was deferred for further clarification. Just for the benefit of the new members, I'll do a quick resume of the application. It is a very small substation in the corner of one of our National Park owned car parks. The intention is that the substation is required to enable undergrounding of poles and lines and 4 other transformers within Capel Curig to benefit the environment and visual effect of the overhead lines. At the time, in March, members, if you recall, you asked for clarification on 8 points, which I've tabulated on page 89 of the agenda. We've had a revised plan, which they've been able to push the substation back 2 meters, which has enabled the retention of the 2 sessile oaks, which was the main concern of members. There's also some biodiversity landscaping that was required, explanation of vents on the back, which they've indicated will not create any greater noise than ambient. There is a simplified undergrounding plan, which I have included on the PowerPoint. It's not very clear, but I did ask for it to be circulated to all members earlier this week, which I hope you've all had. I'll just, for the benefit of new members, this is the National car park in Capel Kirrig, and the siting of the substation is proposed in this corner here. Moving it back does enable more car parking spaces to be retained. It won't affect these parking spaces here, but does mean the retention of these sessile oaks. All of the matters were agreed, and the information is there for clarification. The one that they could not agree to, if you remember, mentioned it was could the building be clad in timber as opposed to the stone. They didn't agree to that, as it was going to, they felt it could be a fire risk, which I think I understand as a substation that the fire risk is probably not a good idea. So it is retained as a stone building. All of the matters are as previously. The benefit is that I think it's 34 poles that will be removed, including this one here, and the more intrusive H poles with the transformers sort of hanging off them. So all of those will go. This I've measured it out. It's about 3 kilometers of overhead cables that will be removed in and around Capel Kirrig, to the benefit of the visual special quality of the park. So recommendation remains as previously, with the additional conditions for biodiversity enhancement and landscaping, which will be a pre-commencement condition. So recommendation is to approve.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr iawn, Richard.
Thank you very much. Can we have photos, please?
It's in this corner here. It's just, these are the 2 sessile oaks which were now to be retained. So it's just behind these 2 trees here. This corner, this area here. That area there. Just have a run through the plans as well. So the building has been moved back 2 meters. I think it was suggested we might tie it into the wall, but what they've asked for is access all around the building, so that for maintenance purposes, and it's a different ownership, so they would have to get an easement to get access round the back. So, but moving it back 2 meters has retained the trees, and the biodiversity enhancements. If you recall, there is already a hedge being proposed here, but we'll get some more trees in and around the site as well. We haven't had that plan yet, but it is suggested as a pre-commencement condition.
Iawn, Richard. Diolch yn fawr.
So,
Gawn ni Dwi'n pwyllgor yn ôl, os gwelwch chi dda. Iawn, diolch yn fawr. Joe.
Diolch. Just a question about access when the car park's full at the peak of the season. Will it need a car parking space? Is there space for a vehicle to park?
That hasn't been discussed with them, but the access to the building doesn't impinge on any of the car parking spaces. So they will be able to gain access to the building without having to use up one of the car parking spaces. I did discuss with them how often they have to visit. It's very rarely that they have to visit these buildings once they're up and running.
Thank you.
So we don't see it as a huge problem.
Iawn, diolch Joe. Owain?
Thanks, Joe. Owen. Yes, very willing to propose the recommendation. From what I remember of the planning committee, this is a good example where the authority and members add value to the planning process. I think we had a really good discussion in the last committee. And I think the quality of the application has borne fruition, and I'm willing to propose that. Anybody willing to second that? Ivor, thank you very much. Ivor, did you want to speak? Yes, can I just reiterate what Owen has just said? It's good to see the process in operation, that they've actually gone back and they've adapted it. It's much better alleviated now, and in the park context it works so much better. Thanks ever so much. John? No problem with the plans. I raised the issue about the trees and the stones because it uses so much less carbon. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Does anybody else want to say anything? Can't see any hands up at the moment. So we have a proposer and a seconder that we permit. Can we have a show of hands, please? Green, if you agree. Red, if you don't. Unanimously permitted. Thank you. On to the next one. Aberdyfi is the next one. External adaptations and extend balcony. Before we actually start on this one, can I just introduce Sophie Berry? I don't think any of you have met Sophie before. Iona is on maternity at the moment. Sarah has left us to go to NRW. Sophie Berry and Emma work for us from a Prospero consultation company, and we're really glad that they're helping us out while we're looking for somebody to replace Sarah. Many thanks for that. Welcome, Sophie.
Diolch, Chair. Bore da. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, can you all see the presentation?
Yep.
Okay, so this application is reported to committee because there's an objection from the Community Council because they considered there would be an adverse impact on the neighbouring properties and the character of the area. It's for an extension of an existing balcony and some minor alterations to openings on the facade of the building. Okay, so as you can see, the property is located on the seafront. It's actually positioned at a slight angle to some of the other properties, so it's not as obvious within the street scene as what some of the other properties would be. It's within the conservation area, and this is the property here. As you can see, it's already got an existing balcony on the front of the building and a bay window. It's surrounded by residential properties to either side, and there's some steps coming down to the street with a parking area at the front. These are just some close-ups from the deck. So this is, if you stood on the deck up here, this is what you'd see. This is the main entrance to the building, which is recessed and provides access onto the deck itself. And this is just a view from underneath the deck with the steps coming down, which then lead down onto street level. Okay, this is the existing deck in plan form. As you can see here, that's the recessed entrance, and then there's a sash window here, and here's the deck. Now this is the proposal. As you can see, the deck isn't increasing in depth at all. It is increasing in width. So it's extending slightly left towards the bay, whereas previously, as you can see, there was a gap. And then it's extending to the right-hand side as well, to the end of the what was a sash, but it's being replaced with a set of double doors. It's been extended to the end here, and a spiral staircase will then descend down to the lower level. If I just switch to the next slide, you can see a comparison of the two. So the depth is the same, the width is increasing, and actually the width of the deck is actually no more, in fact, a little bit less than where the existing steps go to across the front of the building. Another difference is this recess is being extended out. So the facade will be flat rather than a recessed entrance. And then this sash window is being replaced with the door. You can see it better in plan form. So as you can see here, they've kept the shape of the recess. So visually, the impact will be the same. After we received the community council objection, the agent amended the design. This window was going to be arched like this entrance, but they changed it back so that it matches more of the shape of the existing building. And I think it retains some of the symmetry that the existing building has here. And these are just some views of the street. So this is looking west towards the property. Here's the property in the distance here. As you can see, the property is unique in the street scene in terms of its position and its aspect and its design. But as you can see, there are some other examples of buildings with steps leading down to the street, some other examples of balconies. And you can see here, the buildings towards this side of the property, they don't have the additions like the properties up the other end. As you get closer to town, they seem to dwindle off. And here's just some close-up images. You can see the property here, and these are the nearby properties. If you're looking down towards the property from the eastern end, really the proposal is not going to be obvious within the street scene because of the angle of the property, and it's obscured in a way by this row of buildings here. Okay, just a couple of other views, and here's just another example of a balcony further up the street and a concealed balcony here. Okay, so overall, in conclusion, it won't affect the visual appearance of the property within the street. It's in keeping with the character. In terms of the additional impact, it's minimal. There's no impact in terms of amenity of neighbours because it extends the existing balcony, no further depth. And just to clarify a point, actually, you can see that on this side of the neighbouring property, there are no windows, so it's not going to have an impact in terms of overlooking or adverse impact on privacy there. So we're recommending approval with a couple of conditions. One, that it shouldn't be creosoted, stained or painted, and another is to implement the installation of a bird box, which has been proposed on plans. Thank you.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr iawn, Sophie.
Okay, thank you very much, Sophie.
Iawn, so ryw sylw gyda fi.
Any comments, anybody? Edgar? Propose that we go along with the recommendation. I don't feel it makes any difference whatsoever. Do we have a seconder at all? John? Can we have a discussion first before we second it? Can I second the recommendation, please? Kim has seconded. John? I don't have a problem. Are all of the other doors set in? Otherwise, it will make a difference to the appearance in comparison with other places. I don't think there's any purpose in bringing it out, so to speak, and with the others being more inset. Just a small point, really. Sophie?
Okay, if I just bring up the floor plans, then we can compare. Okay, I think the difference is that it would give them more room and improve the access onto the property, and you can see that they're making some internal changes, whereas if they didn't move the door out, they wouldn't necessarily be able to implement that, as it would block the access there, I think. My view is that visually the appearance is, you know, the same. The impact on the visual appearance of the building, I don't think it has any negative effect.
Okay, diolch yn fawr, Sophie.
Okay, thanks, Sophie. John? Satisfied? Finished? Owain? Thanks, Chairman. Can I just have an explanation, just to be clear, with the condition relating to the bird nest box? Is that something that the applicant proposed? And is it in accordance with the advice from Welsh Government that biodiversity should be improved? Can you just give us a bit of background to that, please? It's unusual, really, for us to voluntarily have something proposed that improves biodiversity on this scale. Perhaps the officers would like to comment on that. Sophie?
Yeah, so planning policy Wales, and we've got a strategic policy as well that supports the enhancement of biodiversity in all proposals. So we're encouraging that, and ecology officers are encouraging that in the majority of developments. This is a relatively minor scheme, but still they've proposed the installation of a bird box on the opposite, I think it's in the grounds of the building, actually. It should be available to view in the plans in the supporting document, but I haven't put it on the presentation here. They have proposed the installation of a bird box in any instance. We didn't request that, so just as good practice and supporting what the Planning Policy Wales says, we've added a condition to say that it should be installed within 3 months of the proposal.
Diolch yn fawr. Brian?
Thank you. Brian?
Thank you very much. Yes, I wanted to come back to the point that John Pugh raised about the doorway. That was the one thing that struck out to me. When you look at the pictures, the terrace that is running to the, what would it be, the east of the building, also has got similar door frontages with the door set back. And my personal view would be is that moving the door to be flush with the front of the house would detract from that. It is a minor point, but it is a conservation area. My view would be it would be wrong to lose the recess on the front door.
No, diolch yn fawr. Sophie, did you know?
Okay, thanks. Did you want to come back on that, Sophie?
Would it be useful if I shared the images again so you could see the other buildings on?
I think that would be helpful.
Okay, bear me a second. Okay, so this is the recess we were talking about. Okay, so I think these are the properties you were talking about. So they are slightly recessed. My view would be that the building itself is unique in terms of the front. The other buildings, these are recessed doors, but they're of a different design. Yes, members' views here.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it alters the architecture more, but as I say, it's a personal view, and other members may feel that it's immaterial. But my proposal would be that we accepted with at least some recess retained on the door to retain the street view, and the other doors, which I agree are completely different. The other side, that's not where you see that door from.
Just os gael o fewn ar hwn, just fod yn glir.
If I can just come in there, obviously we have to accept or refuse the design that's actually in front of us. Thank you for raising that point. John, I'll second what Brian has said. We'll refuse it now, and they should come back and change the recess. The concern that I have is that if one do it, everybody is going to do it, and how much is that going to change the actual appearance of the village? Thank you for that. So can we have the committee back on screen, please? If I can just come in there, please. A proposal has been made and seconded with the recommendation, in accordance with the recommendation. Obviously now a proposal to refuse has been made and has been seconded. It's not an improvement, so we'll be voting on the first one initially to permit, and if that fails, then we will go to the second proposal made by Brian and seconded by John. Thank you. Ivar? I just have a question to Ewan. Is this the first time that this application has been submitted to us? They could resubmit with some form of adaptation to the design. Am I right in saying that? I'll leave that to John to answer. Yes, of course. If it's refused, say, then the options will be to put in an amendment or appeal against the decision, but they get that for free, don't they? Am I right? Yes, they do. Thank you. I can't see any other hands up. Richard has made a comment saying if losing the recess, that may well be permitted development. I'm not perfectly sure off the top of my head without checking. Richard?
I have a feeling it would be permitted development just in filling the porch area. It doesn't come in front of the front elevation of the dwelling, so they would be able to do that without having to apply for planning permission.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr iawn hynna.
Unless any of my colleagues disagree.
Sorry, can I come in here? Yeah, I just thinking on that. I think John, that Richard is correct in what he's saying. Just thinking in terms of the permitted development rights that they have there. There isn't any restrictions, irrespective of the fact that it is in a conservation area.
Okay, diolch yn fawr.
Okay, thank you for that. Edgar? I'm just going to conclude at the end, if that's okay. John? You're on mute, John. It's in a conservation area, and they can still do that as a part of permitted development. So that's what you're saying. Richard? Or Jane?
I think that's correct, yes. Conservation area designation would not prevent that from occurring.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr.
And we don't have an article for covering those points.
Yeah. Helen? Oh, Ellen. I was just going to reiterate what Richard was saying, unless there's an Article 4 designation, removing the permitted development rights away from this specific conservation area, then they have a perfect right to do so. Okay then, thank you. I can't see any other hands up. We'll go to the vote, therefore. Edgar? Edgar wanted to conclude. What I was going to say is, I respect what Brian is saying. It's a matter of opinion. If it was in a row, I would agree, but it's unique in the way that the building is set out, and I can't see anything wrong with it, that's all. If I can just come in really quickly, from the advice that the officers have put forward, the officers seem clear, very clear. They'll be able to do it in any case. Okay, we'll put it to the vote then. Everybody in favour of permitting? Can we have a show of hands, please? Green button. Everybody against? Red button. Motion carried by 10 to 3. 10 to 4. Apologies. Permitted. On to the compliance cases then, please.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could just advise members, the compliance list is not as up to date as we'd anticipated, primarily because of two factors. In the fact that sort of between committees, particularly when it's sort of 1 month after another, and the deadlines in relation to that, it provides limited opportunity to provide significant updates, which I think members do expect each time they receive this report. And secondly, the fact that obviously resources are stretched. Obviously, I'm acting planning manager, and I'm also trying to do quite a lot of element of my old role as a compliance officer as well, and also providing additional resource and guidance to David, who is relatively new to the post. So we're hoping to obviously improve this as it goes on, but I just wanted members to be mindful, because I'm very conscious that I stated that I would provide updates in regard to Hengur, 3, Glendower and Nanai. I do have a bit of updates in relation to those, but they're not significant as members may have been expecting. So I just wanted to raise that before we went through the list.
Okay, thank you, Jane. We'll start on page 111 then, please. Does anybody want to raise anything? 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119. Edgar's hand was up there actually. A 118. Castell Cydwm in Betws Garmon. What's number 23 on page 118? There's been a lot of complaints about this one recently, especially with the rain that we've been having. There's holes in the wall where the water is supposed to disappear, but it gathers there or collects there because it's not cleaned often enough, and I think we should look into it because it's dangerous when half of the road is actually underwater. If we could have somebody to have a look at that, please. Because at the moment it's with an agent and we should pursue that really. Dilwyn. Thank you very much, Chair. On page 119, page 29, Machno in Pen Machno. As I understand it from the Community Council, this has been ongoing for quite some time. Are there any updates on this one? And also, I'm just self-educating here, really. When we do get complaints, or when we do have planning applications being submitted, what's the usual procedure? Do we as local members get to know about it, or is it up to us to look if there are any applications or not? Jane or John, can you answer that, please?
And with planning applications, Dilwyn, you should have, I don't know whether it's been established yet with new members, you should have a list of planning applications. So you should have an email with the planning applications for the next week or fortnight. If you want, we can contact you with every individual applications in the area. We could just send you a list of the new applications coming in. That's up to you. I'm not aware that we share this enforcement list. This is just presented to every committee. I don't know if you want anything further than that. It's just an opportunity really for you. Sorry to interrupt. Is there anything further about Machno? Because I know that it's, well, when I was going around there before the election for the county council, this was being raised regularly. As somebody who knows Machno quite well, I'm aware of the local feelings there on this site. David is the confirmation officer. I'm not sure if you got an update on the Machno. Just that we have been holding site visits, and we are in the process of writing to the owners to see what steps they can make to improve opportunities, to improve the state of the site, and just to see what steps, you know, if expediency carry out any steps after that. Well, historically, I think there is, you know, the site is untidy. The owner parks Land Rovers and different cars are left there, and things are deteriorating. Historically, I don't think that that is a planning matter. We can use section 215 with planning enforcement if the place is untidy, but I don't think that this has gone to that point where we can take any steps to ask them to improve the situation. But as I say, David is looking at the most recent situation, and that's why it hasn't been solved by the planning authority historically, because the fact that a site is untidy in itself isn't a reason for us to take any action, but we look at it again. I know it's a concern for the community. Well, I just want to ask here as well. I don't remember exactly. We're talking about 12 or 14 things on the site. So how much worse would it have to be before anything is done? And I asked this question because it's a question I was asked in the community council. Well, I can't answer the question. David, is this, you've been to the site in the last month or the last 2 months? And you are in a dialogue or corresponding with the owner? Yes. We carried out some research at the beginning of the month last year, and we're comparing what we saw then when we didn't take any further action, as you say, and we are comparing what we saw in the last month to see whether it is expedient to take more action. But from what I've seen on the site, the situation hasn't deteriorated and it hasn't improved either.
Sorry, can I come in relation to this case, because I'm conscious that we've had, this is one that keeps raising, has been raised over the last few years, and it's one that when we've had input in the past and we've contacted the owner relevant, that we've seen a sort of improvement is made and we make progress to the point whereby there's no reason to sort of initiate any formal action as such. It's not considered to be expedient, and then over time it starts to fall back in terms of being, yeah, and I appreciate that. So I think now obviously we've had the concerns again, it seems to be falling back into a sort of untidy state.
Yeah.
The query we've got with this one is the fact that it is actually a car park, and it just seems to be cars that have been parked there, stored. So that's something we've got to take into consideration. But I'm conscious that the recent photos I've seen, there seems to be more sort of scrap vehicles.
Yes.
And
Okay,
sort of
yeah.
that. So we are certainly looking in respect to that. And I think in addition, I'm aware that there's actually a building that looks like that has been built to the rear.
Yeah.
We're not quite sure whether that is actually part of that car park or whether it's been sold off. So that's something we need to investigate, because it might be somebody that owns it entirely different. So certainly we are ongoing with it. But I just say with our resources, we are limited, and it'll take us time to progress it forward, but we are doing so, and we'll look at that and look at the history that has taken place previously. And we've got quite a significant photographic record of this, so we can certainly be able to see that in relation to the current situation now.
Iawn, diolch Jen. Diolch Dilwyn.
Diolch i chi.
Ifor? Tar fyd, Ifor.
You're on mute, Ifor. Technology. Number 40 on page 120. Well, during the lockdown, there were a lot of static caravans were used to live in. I want to know the background about this. This has been in place since 2018, and now in May it's had section 330. So why is it there in the first place? Were they transforming an old building and living in the caravans? I just want to know the background, that's all.
The background with this particular case, as I understand it, it was one that my colleague was involved with, and I've taken it over because he's moved to policy. My understanding is that the static caravan was just placed in a field, and it was used basically as holiday accommodation. I think originally it was as part and parcel in terms of additional families staying there, but obviously it's not within the curtilage of actually the domestic curtilage itself. It's actually in the agricultural field, so technically speaking it needs permission. Also, I believe that it started being used as sort of holiday accommodation in terms of separate holiday letting as well. I understand it's been reverted as actual accommodation that additional family members use, and we have been liaising with them to see whether there's any opportunity whereby they could actually relocate the caravan to within the domestic curtilage, whereby if it's ancillary and being used ancillary to the main property, that they wouldn't need permission for it. So there's been a lot of liaising with that, and that because obviously they've not actually progressed to actually sort of move it to within the curtilage, that obviously we're now looking at taking formal action to ensure it's removed.
So are we likely to see that coming into us as a full application, Jane?
I wouldn't. It's something that we wouldn't encourage the submission of a formal application in that respect, because it is contrary to policy in terms of Development Policy 22. So it's something that would be contrary. So therefore, that would be something that we'd be looking at taking formal action. As I say, we provided them an opportunity to move the caravan to the domestic curtilage.
Yeah, just on their Kinsale.
I'm just afraid of this precedent that things like this can set. That's my concern. Thank you. We're on page 120, 121.
Can I provide an update in regard to Hengoat in relation to this one?
142.
Sorry, yeah.
Go on.
Number 42. Sorry, it's just let you know that I've contacted NRW to find out what the latest was with the proceedings that they were undertaking, and unfortunately, yet again, the actual trial has been postponed, and now they've been set a date for February the 27th, 2023, which obviously is next year, which seems to be a massive delay with this particular trial. And obviously in relation to, I am liaising with legal in relation to the planning contravention notice and replies that I've received in respect to that, in relation to the fact the actual owner has passed away at the end of last year.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. Does y fawr o beth o'n i'n neud, os yw'n agos?
There's a little we can do therefore, is there?
At the moment, there's nothing more that I can do at the minute until I sort of can see whether there's anything in terms of progressing it forward in terms of the ownership situation, which is obviously a question mark at the moment.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr, Jane.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for that report. Anything else on 121? 122? 123? 124?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, is it okay that I can just may provide a brief update in respect to this case? It's more, and it's also in relation, probably in relation to Nanai as well. Sorry?
Harry, yeah.
What number is it?
Right, 3 Glyndor is 47, that's on page 124.
Thank you.
It's just to basically advise that the sort of limited, I've had a limited opportunity to do any significant update with this, but other to advise members that there is a forum, a meeting that has been set up, or a group, management group being set up with Gwynedd Council. Basically it deals with empty properties and the management of those and bringing them back into use. We had our first meeting at the end of last week, I believe it was, and that we have actually asked for the Glyndor property in Brincreek and also Nanai to be placed on the priority list of progressing forward. So Gwynedd Council will also have some involvement in terms of having sort of like an interdepartment sort of approach in terms of how we can try and resolve the situation both of these properties. So hopefully that will be a good opportunity to try and get some kind of progress with this, not just looking at the planning process, but also looking at other elements in terms of council tax, taxation in general, but also building control and housing and so forth. So that's just, that was it. I didn't know more on that one.
Thank you, Jane, for that information. We'll go on to 120, page 125. 26. 127. And there we are. So we'll go on to the next, which is section 106 agreements. This is for information. Do you have any questions on 129? And 130? If not, we'll go on to applications which have not been decided upon. These are for information. 131, 32, 30, 32, 33, 34, 134, 135. 133. What number, John? Page 133. Aberangell, the second on the page. Wastad Goed Aberangell. an update, please.
My understanding with that particular application is that the amended plans have been sought and that they'll be going to reconsultation. I don't have anything further in respect to that, but I'm conscious that the case officer is discussing in terms of the design of that, and the amended plans have been sought.
Okay, well.
Iawn, Anwen.
Anwen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The page 134, the farmers market all get their application. An update I've had that I've been told all the park is waiting for is the seal of approval of the archaeologist and the conservation department. Well, this is to do with some of the market buildings. The fifth down on page 134.
Yeah, sorry, I will need to contact the officer who's handling that application and get back to you. Is that what?
Can I just come in there? Perhaps I'll have to declare my interest. I'm one of the trustees. Right. Can we have a further report on that then, Jane?
Yes, absolutely. I'll provide.
Thank you very much. Page 135, objections from neighbours. Then 10, approval of the appointment of one casual vacancy for Southern Snowdonia. David? Peter is here. I can see him. Hello. Well, first of all, warm welcome to the new members. I know this is a learning curve for you all. What's happened? We have two access forums in the park under the Crow Act. We have two committees, one in the north, half the committee are landowners and the others are in the leisure sector, and one from the disability sector. There are 19 or 18 members in the south and 18 in the north. There is one person who has left us in the south, that is Andy Sean Hall. Sorry, I missed the name. He was with the canoeists, and we need to have somebody else to as a replacement. So we have had an applicant by David Davis. David is quite well known in a way in the mountain biking world, and he's been building tracks for National Resources Wales. He has experience in America and Europe in this area, and he is an ideal applicant for what we need to replace Andy. So this is the background. Everything's on the paper, and what I'd like to do, every option has to come to you in a way to support us with the application. It's happened several times in the past, but this is the first one we've had. But what I really need is support from the committee today. Any comments by anyone? John? You're on mute, John. Can I support this application? Is there a seconder? Elfed? Well, I know the applicant. He lives close to me. He's done wonderful work with mountain biking, and David hasn't been very well recently. I'm sure if I had a job like this with you, Peter, it would do him the world of good, and us as a park. So I'm very supportive for David to join you. Trish, do you want to speak?
Fi, yeah? Yeah. Do I have to declare an interest here? Because mae David yn gweithio I fi.
Yeah, so well i chdi declare, wel, mae fyny y pwyllgor. Iawn, diolch yn fawr.
Well, datgan diddordeb, Tracy, bysa. Rhaid chdi'n yr stafell aros, ie?
I'll put you in the waiting room, shall I? I'll just be quiet.
Iawn, okay.
Right, okay. I don't see that anybody else wants to speak. So could you show, please, that we all accept green arrow? If you accept. And that is anonymous. Right, great. That's been carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for the report. We'll go on to delegated decisions, which are for information. Page 139, 140, 141. Has anybody got any questions? 142. If not, we will go on to page 143, applications refused. Are there any questions there? 144. So there we are. And appeal decisions for information. And that's it, I think. We finished. Thank you very much.